Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
It's Becky Brown. I talked to somebody a couple weeks ago that said they were kind of disappointed when I would say that because Steve wasn't here, but
Aww.
I am happy to be here with you. And alongside of me is Marc Cameron and Dr. Alice Benton.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
And I'm glad you guys are there too. And wherever you're listening, just know that we are here to help you. Marc was praying before we started the show today, and we do want to help you. And so give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to be taking your calls for 2 hours and want to help you in any way possible. And I think sometimes that first phone call is the hardest one to make. But listen, we're a friendly bunch and we can help you. So, one of the things that I think about a lot is what is the it that keeps us from moving forward in our lives. Do you guys have any thoughts about those its that people are either not dealing with or dealing with?
Becky, I was just thinking back over my own family's weekend, and there were multiple its that could have and sometimes did lead to overeating because it's, for me, very often a distraction to eat. And it's a comfort to eat, and it helps me to sidestep whatever uncomfortable emotions there are right there in the moment. So we had a little honoring ceremony for a baby that I miscarried a couple of years ago, and we wanted to think about him and love on him. And that was emotional, and that's a reason for me to eat. We had a celebration of just a good time with our kids and got humongous ice cream cones. Another good reason, but a reason to eat. Had a rupture with my husband, and we're doing the comfort circle to repair the rupture. Another reason to eat. Our weekends, our days, our moments are packed with all kinds of reasons that we can go to eating to cover them, to comfort them, to sidestep them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and eating's not a bad thing, right? Eating is great. We do feasting in heaven, and I look forward to seeing what that is going to be like up there. But you're right? It's that, recently I watched... what's the one show that where you lose all the weight? Biggest Loser.
Biggest Loser.
Yeah. And the way I watch it is I watch the first episode and then I skip and I watch the last episode, right? Just to see the transformation. But then you get if you read how many of those folks unfortunately end up putting the weight back on because they don't really address the it in their life because they're using food for comfort in a non-relational way when really we're designed to have comfort in relationships.
Yeah, that's the key too, is that it can cause us to do a lot of behaviors, whether it's eating, drinking, gambling, pornography. There's lots of things that will drive our need to find relief from the feeling that we're having, as opposed to really addressing what's at the core of this and what do I need to do in order to have just a way to reach out, to connect with somebody. Even on The Biggest Loser, they have this house full of people, right? Well, connection is one of our key values here at New Life. And we know that it can be really difficult to connect, but it can be very healing and very much an answer to dealing with the its in your life. Of course, we're talking about Lose It for Life, which is our weight and eating issues workshop. We're going to have it online March 18th. And so it's easy to attend. And whether it is the it of, shame or regret, or maybe just the isolation and then food is keeping you company, we want to help you get free of that and lose it for life, literally lose the it for life, and have a plan and a process in order to be free and to use food for what it was meant to be used for. And that is for energy and for nutrition. It's all going to be part of that great day. We're going to have Michelle Spadafora with us. Steve Arterburn's going to be speaking. And we're going to have groups with our counselors who are going to lead you in a way forward. And I tell you, we've been doing that for 20 years, and we've helped a lot of people keep that weight off, and we can help you too. We're going to be right back after this break.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is going to Washington, D.C., March 31st to April 2nd. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I hope that you will decide to join us for Lose It for Life. And maybe, it would be the next step in your healing process. This month we are going to feature the book, Take Your Life Back. And that kind of is going along with the Lose It for Life idea. But Take Your Life Back is one of my favorite books that we use. Yes, Alice is holding it up. It's like Vanna White. Thank you so much. For our YouTube audience, you can see it. But Take Your Life Back was written by Steve Arterburn and Dr. David Stoop. And so, one of the key things that we talk about in Take Your Life Back is working your side of the street. It's a recovery concept that we talk about many times. And Alice, I don't know if you have read through that book, but it's one of my favorites. And one of the reasons is because it keeps the mirror on us. Have you read through the book? And what do you know about taking your life back?
I sure have. It's so empowering, although it can be also overwhelming, to keep our focus on our side of the street, because most of us think if the people around me changed, my life would be fine, it'd be better. Mm-hmm. But we don't have power, or we have very limited power over the people around us, but we can develop a whole lot of power over how we're reacting, how we're cleaning things up, how we're engaging in spiritual detox to unload the baggage that we're carrying around. And when we start to change the unhealthy homeostasis in our homes and in our relationships, and it often leads to change then in the people around us. So it flips how we normally view problems, and it then equips us to start the change process in our homes.
That's right, because we can have relationships that make us feel drained, but the drain comes from the fact that we don't really have control over the other person, and so we need to take our life back. Marc, what would you say to somebody who has a relationship that leaves them feeling drained, and they've tried everything and yet there's still no energy, it doesn't feel like it's a free and healthy relationship?
Yeah, I think that happens often to us. And I think when we're feeling drained, you're doing most of the work. And one of two things are going on. I think it's one, that you are either a rescuer type of person, where you are not allowing the other person to be able to do their growth, and you're not allowing them to be able to take their life back because you're just solving problems for them. And I think the other dynamic that happens is that the other person isn't interested in growing, and you're more interested
Yes.
in improving the relationship. And so you feel drained because it's all one way. And so I think the solution to that is to you take responsibility for you allow the other person to take responsibility for themselves. And that can be really hard to do, especially if you are a rescuer type. My wife is a rescuer type, and I see her struggling sometimes with friendships that she has, and even family relationships. And I told her one time, why don't you just end up saying, that's really hard, what are you going to do about it? And that really, she held on to that. For me, it was just kind of something in passing, but she's really held on to that. And that helps her be able to let other people own their stuff. And then she feels freer.
I love that. You know, so many times we'll get phone calls from folks who are in really difficult relationships where they are doing more work than the other person. And it's a concept that we've actually been taught about in our own training in counseling, right? It's, you know, we don't want to do more work than what the client is doing. But what if you just love that person, you're in that relationship, you know, it might be a family member, because that's typically where we hear about it. You know, it could be a spouse, it could be a child, an adult son or daughter. Alice, what would you say to somebody who's in that struggle of power to take back their life?
Well, we have to differentiate our own needs from the needs of the other person. And a good way to do that is through extended listening, and then asking what the other person needs or wants from us. We get that clarity from them about what they desire, and then we choose whether or not we're able to fulfill what they are requesting of us. And sometimes we have to give them a no or a not yet, or yes, I can do what you're asking of me. But it helps to create a healthy space between what another person wants and then what I'm able to do, what I'm called to do, and what I'm willing to do for them.
Well, I love that. Well, so if for a gift of any amount, just give us a call and we'll send you that book, Take Your Life Back. And if you give a gift of $50 or more, we'll include the Take Your Life Back devotional, which is really good as well. Right now, we're going to go to the calls and we're going to talk to Julie, who's calling us from Washington, D.C. on the great station WAVA. And we are so glad you called, Julie. How can we help you today?
Oh, hello. God bless you guys for all you do.
Oh.
I'm trying to get this out quick because I know you've got lots of listeners that would love to get help from you guys. But, okay, I got two questions. I'm trying to get my questions out first, and then you can tell me what background questions you have. Number one, my son is coming to lose it to life in a couple of weeks. I helped him so he could do that. And I'm hoping that, you know, if there are other issues going on in his life, like emotional, he would have loved to, needed to come to the emotional thing that you had. Hopefully you can give him recommendations for those things at that time also. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, we'll take care of him. We'll take care of him, Julie. Is this something that he wants to do?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then tell us more about your relationship with him.
Okay, I'd like to give you my second question. Okay. I love him. I have a wonderful relationship with him, but my issue, I'm a severe people pleaser. I was in an abusive relationship for 27 years, marriage. It was abusive to me and abusive to my children. And so now I have adult children and grandchildren, and so, you know, it's a long time emotional. But anyway, I have my granddaughter in my house most of the time. She does not live with her mother or her father, although her father is mostly, who is my son, is mostly in his life, calls her every single day, takes her all over the country to play basketball, just takes her to practice, everything, does everything. Mother just sees her like 2 weekends a month. So I'm kind of in the middle. But the most issue now is granddaughter, because granddaughter, we've had calls from school over and over and over again. Even in third grade, she pushed the principal. But it went to the limit on Friday. I think my son had just had enough. We have been getting calls like almost every week of something that's happened. Friday, she put her hand in the teacher's face, and the teacher, which shouldn't have, but the teacher called her the B word. But she has had lots of stuff all year. She couldn't play basketball the first game because she had acted out with a teacher. So it just reached its limit on Friday because my son had had enough of the calls from school. And I get the emails, but I didn't get the one about what happened on Friday.
So, Julie,
so it was
how can we help
on Friday.
So, Julie, how can we help you? What's the question?
Yeah, you need to help me. I would like for you to help me as the person in the middle who's with this granddaughter every day and dealing with her disrespect, dealing with her pushback. And I'm a people pleaser, so I hate people to be in pain of any kind. And so I say yes, probably entirely too much. And I need to say, call your father, instead of me saying, yes, you can do that.
All right, I think we get a good picture. Yeah, I think so. But Mark, let's start with you and then see what he can do for Julie.
Well, let me ask you one question here, Julie. What does your grandma heart tell you that is under the anger for your granddaughter?
Man, I really wish I could. It's just authority. She has such issues with any kind of authority. If I ask her to do anything, it's going to be pushback. I mean, I know that at middle school, at 13 years old, a lot of those kids have those kinds of resistance issues, but she had it since third grade at 8 years old when we took her because, she needed a more stable lifestyle. But even as a 3-year-old, oh my goodness, I had, issues just picking her up from nursery school. Strong-willed personality. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. And I've asked the assistant principal, what kind of help can we get her at school to help her deal with her emotional issues, her resistance to authority, her disrespect, all of these kinds of things to help her. So I'm waiting on the principal to call me back. Hopefully he'll give me some suggestions because now mental health is important for kids and they have resources. I wish I could answer that.
Well, it sounds like, there's a lot of things that go on around this 13-year-old age, right? There's a lot of hormones and brain development changes that happen. I think for your granddaughter, what I'm hearing, she's living with you and both of her parents are somewhat absent from her life. So there's probably some abandonment issues going on for her too. As well as I'm wondering, sometimes kids act out in school when they have learning challenges. And so there really could be a whole bunch of things that could be possibly going on here. I think what I would say to you, Julie, is you've already kind of identified about yourself that you tend to be this people pleaser person who rescues others. And when someone needs rescuing, that's good. But when somebody needs growing, that's not so good because you end up robbing them of that tension that they need to be able to have a little bit of a struggle and then see if they can recover. I think one thing that I would recommend to you is learning how to do the comfort circle, which Mylan and Kay talk about in their book, How We Love Our Kids. It's just a fantastic tool to be able to engage your kids in, to be able to help them understand what is under what's driving their behavior, because anger is a secondary emotion. There's always a hurt, a sad, or a fear that's underneath anger, and until you get to what is the primary emotion underneath, you might be spinning your wheels a little bit. And so I would try and see if you can start to engage her to find out what's going on. Why are you feeling so mad?
And we will send you a copy of that, Julie.
Yesterday.
Let's hear what Alice has to say, Julie.
Julie, with such obviously problematic, aggressive behavior from your granddaughter, it's so likely that she becomes or is already the problem in the family. And yet, Julie, you humbly acknowledge that there's a lot of chaos and broken relationships, history of abuse in your family. And so I encourage you to make sure to give her the message that we have a chaotic family, and that stirs up emotions in all of us. Anxiety, sadness, worry, feels like it's out of control. Sharing, Julie, that sometimes you may feel that way, give her permission to feel that way and to express it. And give her permission, which I'm sure you do, to be upset with the adults around her and the adults that are so absent. You're such a great exception to that absence. And I would guess that there may be some brain chemistry imbalances because you saw aggression from such an early age, whether there was substance use perhaps on her parents' part, that can be a possibility, and that can affect a child's brain, or even just the traumatic losses so early on in her life so that at 3 she was displaying some aggressive behavior. And so I'd refer you to Dr. Daniel Amen's website because he helps determine brain type with even some free questionnaires that he has on his site. And that leads to some referrals to supplements, to diet, to exercise changes, which can help calm down a brain that's so hyperactive, so aggressive as hers seems to be. Lastly, I want you to share decision-making power with her. in as many instances as you can. I think her life feels out of control. And so when an adult tries to direct her, she takes control back with her aggressive behavior. And so as her active mom, which you're in that role, of course, when you have to direct her to do something, I would try to split it into two choices, both of which you can live with, but allowing her to have some of that power. I do it in a real simple way with my own kids, where when I need them to come off screen, for instance, I'll say, do you want 15 more minutes or 20 more minutes? I'm fine with either one. They always decide the larger time, of course, and they feel like they have a little bit of power. Your granddaughter needs to feel like she has some decision-making power over her life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Alice. Julie, we're going to send you a copy of How We Love Our Kids. I also want to encourage you to do some work of your own. You are giving to so many people, and it could be time for you to address some of the reasons why that pleaser part of you is operating your life. I mean, you said your son's coming to Lose It for Life, which is great. You're taking care of your granddaughter. There's a lot of people that are leaning on you. And I would just encourage you, if a counselor is not in the family situation, because I think it could be helpful in this, moving forward, your granddaughter could probably benefit from that. You could probably benefit from that. It's just, and to get on a good path going forward. We're so glad you called. We're going to be right back taking more calls after this.
We have been estranged off and on for 10 years or more, and he has a lot of grievances and anger and bitterness and hatred toward me.
Our daughter is the problem. She said, I don't want to be in your life right now.
Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Courageous Parents, Transforming Relationships with Your Adult Sons and Daughters. It's an online workshop with Dr. Jim Burns, Dr. Jill Hubbard, and me. I think it will change the way you see your adult children.
I was never prepared for doing life with my adult children. Some of our kids bumped and violated values that we never dreamed they would, and there's some principles that we can talk about.
With insightful teaching and the guidance of a credentialed New Life counselor, this one-day online workshop, Saturday, April 1st, will provide practical advice and hopeful encouragement for navigating the parent-adult-child relationship. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We do have some lines available. If you want to give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to be taking your calls for a couple of hours. But right now we are going to talk to Debbie, who's calling us from Austin, Texas, listens on Sirius XM. And we're so glad you called, Debbie. How can we help you today?
Hi there. Well, I heard you talking about trust issues, and I've got a lot going on right now. I have an adult daughter that manipulates my husband, who is her stepfather. And he has made some big decisions behind my back, and it's usually about our daughter, where she has cried and says, oh, I can't pay the rent this month. She rents a house from us. And it's every year she has trouble. And then sometimes he'll let her off 6 months of rent without talking to me. And it's not helping her. He also calls her at 7 in the morning to wake her up so she can get her 2 kids up for school. So I'm having a lot of trouble with this enabling, and I'm kind of fed up. He recently let her have her whole income tax check and said, don't worry about it, we'll get rent later. She owes $8,600. And I just found out he let her go and said, we'll work it out. So
That's hard.
I just don't know what to do. I'm in the middle of it. I threatened to leave him if he did it again, because I cannot live like this. You going behind my back,
Debbie,
when you making decisions.
When you threatened to leave him over this, how did he react?
He's like, well, I guess if that's really what you want to do, I guess you can, but I don't think I did anything wrong. And I made a decision at the time that I thought was right.
And how old was your daughter when her stepfather came into her life?
She was 10 years old.
10. And is she struggling with any physical or mental, intellectual impairment?
Well, she has bipolar and personality disorder, which she refuses to take any medication for.
And is the father of her children in her life?
He is, but he's out of state. You know, they talk. You know, he hasn't done much for her. My husband's the one that's, you know, really raised her and done things for her that she needed and helped her out when she needed it. I don't mind some helping, but this is enabling. It is past helping.
Do you suspect any?
You know, he also.
Do you suspect any substance use on her part?
Yes, I do. I have suspected it for a while.
So, Alice,
I
what can Debbie do to move the family forward?
Well, I think you have to decide, Debbie, is your threat to leave, was it an attempt to figure out how much does he really want our marriage? Was it an empty threat, or was it a serious threat? Because if you
it wasn't an empty threat. I did leave. I threatened to leave for good, but I took a few nights in a hotel, and, you know, he would call and leave me a message and say, you know, come back, you know, I want to talk to you. You know, I don't understand what I did wrong. I don't know why this is wrong. It took him a week and a half to even say, okay, I didn't consider your feelings about this.
And you're back in the house now, Debbie.
Yes, I am back in the house, but I'm not real happy. I'm wondering if we should do marriage counseling. I mean, I'm just, you know, at a loss right now.
I agree that marriage counseling would be important, and because your absence affected him, it seems like there is some willingness, although he gave an initial, well, go ahead and leave, there seems to be some willingness on his part to rethink his stance. Why wouldn't you go to counseling, marriage counseling? What holds you back from that?
Oh, he doesn't think we need it.
And if you let him know, I am as serious about leaving as I was previously. If you won't get help, we need this. Our family needs this help. Would you come to therapy with me, knowing it's that serious? How do you think he would respond at this point?
I don't know when I'm going to have time. I work all day. When are we supposed to do this?
So if we don't make time, I'll have to consider leaving again, or I'll have to consider separating myself from you, because I'm not willing to be part of this enabling that's going on. Our daughter needs help, but you and I also need help. It is that serious, and we have to make the time. How do you think he'd respond?
That might be a really good way to approach it. He may be open, but he hasn't been in the past. But I told him I don't think the marriage is going to last if we don't do something, because I've got big trust issues.
So, Debbie, what Alice is talking about is really changing the dynamic that's at play, like currently. You guys are in this kind of tug of war.
Yes.
Marc, what would you offer to Debbie to kind of, you know, get out of the dynamic of tug of war, of you go, I stay, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, when I have couples or one person who calls and says their spouse won't go to therapy, what I usually do is I encourage them to go to therapy. I encourage them to go and start to, what we open the program with, which is learning how to take your life back, learning to figure out what are some changes that you can start to make that might interrupt the dynamic that you already have going. Because I think chances are if you leave your husband, that's probably not going to change the dynamic between him and your adult daughter here. He'll probably continue to keep enabling her. But I think if you can go to therapy and you can start to maybe work on some of the things that are stopping you guys from being this effective partnership, and then start to take responsibility for those things, I think maybe that can start to give him some hope. We're about to hit the break here, so I'm going to pause for a second and we'll come right back to you after this break. 1-800-229-3000.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I'm so glad you are with us. And if you want to call us, you can call us 1-800-229-3000. We're going to take calls for about another hour and a half. But right now we're finishing up our call with Debbie. And Alice, you had a couple more thoughts that you wanted to add to that.
Just want to help you, Debbie, to reframe how your husband is trying to love his stepdaughter. Because it may be that he's doing the best he can, loving her, helping her, rescuing her. And I agree, it's enabling. But when we learn that setting boundaries and allowing consequences teaches our children how to be healthy adults much better than saving them from their problems. Sometimes we just need the training to be able to change the way we love our adult children. And so I want you to introduce your husband to New Life, have him listen to our call that we've had with you to inform him, and then consider attending NAMI groups and CODA groups, because in those groups you learn how to love a person struggling with such severe mental health problems like your daughter is, and what loving them effectively looks like versus rescuing them. I also think about our Courageous Parenting weekend that's coming up on April 1st, because I think that would really help you and your husband with your daughter.
That's a great idea, Alice. And Debbie will give you that information. And we're going to send you a copy of Doing Life with Your Adult Children, because I think that is the dynamic that's in play. There's a lot going on there, but we're here for you, Debbie, and we're thankful that you called. Right now, we're going to go to Carol, who's calling us from Arkansas, and it's her first time calling. We're so glad you did. And if you want to call us, you can give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. Carol, how can we help you today?
Yes, ma'am. I was thinking of my daughter who passed in 2004 cystic fibrosis, and she wasn't, so in touch with God like she should. And I was just all my life thinking, God is full of mercy, and she didn't have a life like along as the expected life, She didn't. I'm not sure she was saved. Some people don't get saved till they're later on in age. My question is how would I know that Sarah is in heaven?
I'm so sorry for your loss, Carol, and I know that that's heavy on your heart. Mark, let's start with you. What would you offer to Carol?
Yeah, so Carol, it looks like your daughter, how old was she when she died? 18?
To be exact, 18, 4 months, and 24 days.
So sorry for your loss. Yeah, so your daughter, she was still very much, and I know we kind of have this arbitrary number that we use in our legal system where we say somebody who's 18 is all of a sudden an adult. But I don't think that an 18-year-old is still yet an adult. I do think that as we grow and mature, we have greater levels of responsibility. But I think this is a really hard question for you. And, when I think about these kinds of things, I think that God is a merciful and he is a grace-giving God. And he gives us the Bible, and it does show us what we need to do for salvation. But we don't know who, God is the giver of grace. So I do think it's hard to definitively be able to say who is in and who is out in terms of he's the only one who gets to make that decision. So I think, it sounds like you have been a really good mom to your daughter. She struggled with illness, and
I wasn't like if I was a good mom to her more spiritually, I wouldn't have these questions. I would know for sure.
Well, I think
it's a matter of faith also.
Yeah, I think you might be being a little hard on yourself. It's really, really hard to be a parent, especially a parent of a sick child. And we don't have a lot of capacity for ourselves when we're caring for a sick child like that. So I'm wondering if you're being a little harsh on yourself and you actually did a better job than you think you did.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Alice, what would you offer Carol?
Carol, what would you say is one of your most significant regrets with your daughter? How do you wish you had handled faith differently with her?
Well, I wish I'd been like my mom was to me, and my sisters prayed with her. I wish I took her to church more. This when she was little, and I wish that I just have been an overall better parent. And I know if I was a better Christian back then, I did believe that in God and Jesus, accepted Jesus as our Savior. But I was not doing what I was supposed to do as a parent and in spiritual guidance.
Yeah, so you can certainly see shortcomings in how you practiced faith, how frequently you practiced faith with your daughter. And those are some healthy regrets, I think, that you have. Looking back with hindsight, you see things you could have done better. Do you know if, as a child, did your daughter ever have a relationship with God?
I think my daughter, she was very sick. She had problems breathing. She had problems. The cystic fibrosis causes a lot of sicknesses.
Yeah, it's a terrible disease.
And a lot of different things. And not being able to breathe is not. So I wish I've experienced that. I've had COPD.
Well,
not as bad as now, but.
Carol, I wonder, going along with what Mark was saying before, I think sometimes in our grief, our mind goes to places where we feel like we failed. It kind of helps us carry the sadness of the loss. it doesn't make sense. A lot of times grief does not make sense, but there is this process. And I think sometimes if we can hold on to the idea that I need to keep overturning these thoughts in my mind, it'll keep us from really experiencing that loss. I would encourage you to get into a grief support group, even though it's been a long time. Obviously, you're still dealing with the grief, or maybe even not dealing, and it's getting kind of sidewind. And I think trusting that God knows more than you do, and knowing that you did the best that you could given the circumstances, you can experience the relief and the assurance that God loved your daughter and heal that part of you that is still grieving for her. Alice, did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
Well, Carol, the way that we receive forgiveness when a loved one has passed away and we have the kind of regrets you do is by bravely sharing them with other safe people in our lives. And so you're doing that with us on this phone call. You're joining with me, another imperfect mom. I've made my mistakes. I have my regrets with my children. And by making these confessions aloud to another human being, we start to receive empathy and forgiveness for the ways we were imperfect parents. And so I would ask that if you enter into a grief group, that you would bring these regrets into the light and then begin making a living amends, even though your daughter has passed on. The way that you love the people around you now spreads grace to people, and it's a living testament of faith, and it's a way to honor your daughter's memory. And when this question comes to mind, is my daughter saved? It's a question that you'll have to continue to surrender to the Heavenly Father. These are one of the questions we don't necessarily get an answer to this side of heaven. And so I want you to surrender it to Him every time it comes to your mind, and pray for the unbelievers in your life that they will also find connection with God.
We're so glad you called, Carol. We're going to send you a copy of the Life Recovery Workbook. It will help you on this path, and maybe we can even connect you with a Life Recovery Grief group. We're so glad you called. You know, it's just unfathomable to think of losing a child, especially after you've taken care of one that's been so sick. And we're just going to be praying for Carol to continue to have that healing that she so deserves. Right now, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I am so glad to see you, Larry. Larry Sonnenberg's in the studio. Becky. Hi, Larry. What can you share with us that's going to give us some encouragement about what we do here at New Life?
Well, I really want to encourage Lose It for Life people that are thinking about coming and still haven't made up their minds. I'll read a testimony here before the break, maybe come back for a quick second. I've been confused by some of the other programs I've been involved in before and was getting discouraged and frustrated and needed God's intervention for direction. The workshop has been an experience like no other that I've had. The openness and realness of everyone was so important to me. It shines the light of Christ in the dark places. This workshop has been about healing and restoring to be free, and not about diets and restrictions and more bondage. I'm leaving knowing God's love never fails and that I need Him and other people. I'm responsible for this body that He gave me. I'm glad I came to this workshop.
Wow.
If you're thinking about coming, think about this testimony, and we'll talk right after the break. Thank you.
Great. We'll be right back.
So much of the enjoyment in my life was centered on food, and I had to get away from that. I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was, and couldn't be asking for better. I'm getting ready to order my third round of clothes.
You can lose weight and keep it off for life, but it involves more than just the latest fad diet or exercise machine. If the underlying emotional, spiritual, and physiological issues aren't addressed, the weight returns.
I have been this low before or lower, and everything that I lost came back and brought friends with them.
The Lose It for Life online workshop deals with all of these aspects with its intensive, comprehensive, and interactive curriculum. This online workshop features Zoom sessions presented by Steve Arterburn on Saturday, March 18th, plus 4 small group process sessions facilitated by a credentialed New Life Network counselor. And fitness expert Michelle Spadafora will lead exercise sessions. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I see a different person now than I used to see.
1-800-NEWLIFE. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, we ended before the break, Larry was talking about Lose It for Life. And, you know, we've got all kinds of workshops because we want to help you move forward in your life. Larry, how would you encourage somebody who may be thinking about, maybe going to a workshop or even supporting us so that we can continue to do workshops?
Well, the first step is just to make a call. Call 800-NEW-LIFE and talk to somebody there. And then I just want to encourage folks that have the means to give support, donation support. That will help us a lot to continue to do what we do. You know, I think there's kind of a countrywide malaise right now of hesitation because we have experienced a downfall in people's giving here. And so I don't know what it is. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. And I'm just praying that people could, I don't want to say snap out of it, but just see the sense that God is in everything that's going on in this country, including the financial challenges that we're facing. And step up and make a gift to help us get through this tough time, just like they need help too to get through their tough times.
Right. I love that. And, you know, we're so grateful for those of you who are part of Club New Life that are helping us do that every month. And if you want to join Club New Life and be part of that family, you can, and we'll give you a gift of 8 of our 100-day devotionals. They're all different kinds of beautiful colors, but they also are just a path forward. But, you know, what you were saying, Larry, is so true. Sometimes in the malaise, sometimes in the overwhelm, we get frozen and we can't take a step forward, either to offer help, to be generous, or even to, you know, ask for help as well. So we're hoping that you will, if you haven't given a gift, that you will give one today or more than one. And you can give us a call for that. And also, we're going to keep taking calls, 1-800-229-3000. Thank you, Larry, for coming in and sharing with us. And we're going to go to Lisa, who's calling us from Ohio, and she listens on Sirius XM. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi, thanks for taking my call, and I'm a long-time listener, and just in a real conundrum with, I have a 15-year-old niece. She is my oldest brother's only child, and he lost his wife and her mom, not this past December, but December before, to cancer. And we're just really struggling as a, aunt, my husband as well being involved, my daughter, her cousin, trying to help my brother, just kind of maneuver this teenage depression, outbursts, not wanting to go to school, having some friendship difficulties. They've started her on some antidepressants, but my brother's just crying out to us to just try to plug into her once again, which we do regularly on encouraging her in her behavior. And we're just kind of, pulling our hair out here. We try to, we're believers, and I, give Brianna what I believe to be God's word and scripture, and that we are a product of choices, and we're just want to throw our hands up.
It can be so tough. Okay, yeah, Lisa, let's start. It is tough. That's a lot for a 15-year-old to just deal with. So I imagine all of you having that loss and then she on top of it. Marc, let's start with you and see how we can help Lisa and the family with this.
Yeah, Lisa, I love your heart. I love how you guys are just kind of pulling together as a family, and you're wanting to just support each other through this. Grief is just it's such a strange emotion, and it's a mix of emotions. It's a process, and if we don't do it right, we can be stuck in grief for years. And so I encourage you just to kind of be familiar with the different stages of grief, right? We have denial, we have bargaining, and then we have anger, right? And it sounds like maybe she is in the anger stage, and that is normal, that people to be in that anger stage. Her mom was taken away from her prematurely. She's not designed to deal with that kind of grief. Those kinds of strong emotions in this moment. Has she attended a grief group?
So we got her into some private counseling, just individual, and then we did some family counseling with me, my brother, Brianna, and then her grandmother also that is trying to help plug in. But some of that, it just seemed like we were just going in circles with the family counseling. And so we did a little bit of a segue on just trying to come together for family dinners once in a while, maybe trying to read a book, playing games, trying to get her to open up. And we really feel like she's really not even grieved. I don't know how much she's even truly cried over her mom.
Yeah, so she's gonna be stuck until she can do it. So what I recommend doing is take a look in your area, and maybe we can help you out to see if we can find something. But I think it's key is we get through grief together with others, and if you can get her into a grief group specifically with other teens who have lost a parent, because I'm sure that that unfortunately that happens. If you can do that, I think she might be able to connect with others as they're starting to share their pain, and they might be able to kind of help her together in a different dynamic than you guys can right now.
Well, and Alice, before we go to you, Lisa, she just died in December?
The other December, December before.
A year ago, yeah. So
2021. Okay, very good.
Over a year now. Yes, correct.
Okay,
correct.
All right, let's hear what Alice has to say.
Lisa, as I'm going through my mental checklist, you and your family are already doing so many of the things that we normally advise, but rarely hear a family coming together, multiple generations to surround the grieving child. So I just praise what you're doing. I think what your family's doing is right, spot on, in fact. And grief doesn't have a time limit. And so that's been a year can still feel like such a short amount of time to your niece. And so, of course, continue to allow the time. And I would advise her father that he needs to really balance a great deal of empathy, but not to lose sight of the discipline necessary as well. Because if she's having outbursts, if she's resisting going to school, of course there needs to be understanding for the emotion she's struggling with, but there should still be consequences for inappropriate behavior. And it can be so difficult to allow consequences for a grieving child, but it would actually be a disservice to her to allow any behavior just because she's grieving. So those two things need to be balanced. And then I would wonder, what kind of unhealthy coping might she be into? Be curious about how she's using her screens, what she's getting into there for distraction, and whether she's turning to any form of substance use, because that could exacerbate the anger and the resistant behavior. So you'd want to tease those things out.
Yeah, and Lisa, she's going to need a lot of space. I would say if you haven't already, you mentioned a counselor and you felt like you were going round and round, it would be really helpful for her to have a counselor where she can be just free to be her. Because like you said, Marc, her feelings are all locked down and they're coming out as anger, and to help her to process sadness. She's in a pivotal time for a teenage girl, and to not have her mom is really impacting her but I love that you are all surrounding her, and it's so great. I'm going to send you a copy of the Life Recovery Grief Workbook as well, but hold on and let's see if we can get her connected with a counselor for herself, and not because something's wrong with her, but literally to help her move through this grief. Like you said, Marc, grief is very kind of odd, right? It just takes a different form for lots of different reasons. And, we're all going to experience it. but it is something that we can know that there is hope and there's help beyond that. Thank you so much, Alice and Mark, for riding along today. We're going to continue taking calls, 1-800-229-3000. If you need anything, know that New Life is here for you. We have counselors, we have coaches, workshops, support groups. We want you to know that there is hope for your life. Thanks for listening today.
We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.